Welcome, friends. Welcome. And I'm so grateful that you are here joining us for this live stream. We have a lot to talk about. This has definitely been a very, very busy week in news, and there's just so much I think that we really need to unpack as freedom-minded people. So let me know, if you would please, where you are tuning in from. I love to know where audience members are. It really helps me connect with y'all. And if you, by the way, have not subscribed to the channel, apparently a lot of people have not who regularly tune in. Remember, it's free to subscribe, so go ahead and subscribe if you have not done so, and make sure and smash that thumbs up button. It really does help the channel be able to reach people. It helps people to be able to connect with other like-minded folks, and in a time such as what we are finding ourselves, I think that's very, very important. So the subject matters that we are going to broach today, we are going to go over the Epstein cover-up, and also we're going to cover a couple of things in regards to the ICE raids, and we're also going to discuss really the nuances of the dynamics that we are seeing in some of these areas of the country where so many people have been radicalized and where there is such a very deeply entrenched leftist sentiment that really it has become actively working against the best interest of the rest of the country and the rights of the other people in states that are not, for instance, in California or in New York and some of these sanctuary places. People in other states are starting to really suffer from this. So we're going to go over this, and we're also going to kind of unpack some of these tactics. And this really should trouble you, because when we get into about the middle of the broadcast, we're going to cover who it is that's actually perpetrating some of these assaults and these coordinated attacks on ICE, and it actually might surprise you. So we are going to unpack that. Bear with me, guys, as far as the resolution of the screen. Sometimes it takes just a few minutes for the live stream to kind of get the screen orientation and resolution that it needs to. So just be patient with me and give me a thumbs up if you would, and let me know that I'm coming in loud and clear for you. All right. So welcome again, friends, and thank you so much to the Patreon supporters who really are partnering with me for this and are helping the live streams really take off and reach a broader audience. And I definitely appreciate you guys, and thank you so much to my moderators. The subject matters that we're going to cover tonight are actually they're pretty dark, they're pretty disturbing, but I think it behooves us to really be honest about the problem and do the work when we are looking square in the face of such evil. And thank you guys for letting me know that, that I'm coming in loud and clear. That's helpful. So let's talk first about this ICE raid. And the ICE raid that I want to reference actually is this Glass House Farms raid on the 10th of July. And I have some notes here that I'm going to be referencing throughout the broadcast just to kind of keep myself on track here and make sure that I don't miss anything important. So a very important note here. ICE is operating completely within the confines of their constitutional purview, right? It is lawful for the federal government via congressional nod to enforce, the federal government, i.e. ICE, is enforcing immigration statute that Congress has set. It is within the good governance of the federal government to send ICE to get people who are here illegally and to take them out of the country. Border enforcement is the purview of the federal government, not the states, per the Constitution. And so when we look at what happened here most recently at this ICE raid in California, there were two raids here effectively that were happening on these cannabis farms. And these were state licensed cannabis farms. Now, interestingly enough, as a side note here, there is some murkiness in the law effectively that some people hypothesize really allowed ICE to have a greater capability and greater jurisdiction, because cannabis is still, per federal government statutes, it's still illegal. However, many of the states have attempted to nullify this. And one could argue, of course, that they're within the purview of the 10th Amendment to do so, and that drug policy is inherently problematic and inherently constitutionally murky. So, because of this murkiness, some people are hypothesizing that really ICE actually had a greater latitude in which to work. So, on Thursday of last week, July 10th, ICE goes in and they raid this over 5.5 million square foot facility, and they detain 319 people. But what really shocked folks, unless of course you're on the left, what really shocked people is that they found child labor here. Now, it's interesting to me because the rallying cry of the left perennially seems to be, it's for the children. It's for the children. We care about the children. until they don't. Because here's the thing, ICE actually, in enforcing immigration statute, ended up effectively rescuing at least 10 undocumented minors who were working at this cannabis farm. Now here's the thing, under California law, it is completely permissible for minors 12 years of age and older to work in an agricultural setting, to work on a farm, except for cannabis, for obvious reasons. Because cannabis, regardless of your personal feelings on the legality of it, cannabis is extremely damaging to developing adolescent and teenage brains. And there is a volume of evidence to substantiate this, having worked in inpatient psych, particularly with this aggregate, with young people who oftentimes had concurrent substance abuse issues. I can attest to this personally from what I've seen, that it is indeed very damaging for young people. And so ICE in this raid rescued effectively these young people. The youngest one that I'm aware of who has been recorded and working there that they got as a result of this raid was 14 years old. These are unaccompanied minors. Effectively, these are either young people who were either trafficked, they ran away, or they have become orphaned since being here. So it's one of the three of those. If you can think of another possibility, then please, by all means, leave me a comment. But the reality is that these children, these minors, were found working in this raid right alongside convicted child predators. That is a fact. So in doing this raid and in enforcing these federal statutes, ICE actually ended up protecting children. Can you believe it? It was for the children at this point. The ironic thing in all of this is that the next iteration of what the left decided to do from this is to show up and throw stones. They literally, pardon the pun, threw stones at the glass house. They showed up en masse to riot. And at this riot, there were several people, one of whom, at least we know for sure, was discharging a firearm at law enforcement officers. A pistol. There's no telling what he hit or didn't hit. But this is not a protest. Like, we have escalated from mostly peaceful protest here to, like, from lighting things on fire and arson being considered acceptable to now, like, literally shooting at authorities. And so this happened at this raid. Now, another point here, 4 citizens were arrested for assault and resisting, but if you actually look at the video footage of what was going on, there were far more people that should have been arrested. And when you consider what was happening, deadly force was already met in this crowd by the individual who was shooting at federal officers. But when you further look at what they were doing, this mob was doing towards cars, this escalated it to a whole nother level. So they were taking rocks. We're not talking little stones here. We're talking rocks the size of shot puts and the size of cantaloupes, small watermelons, and throwing them at the windshield with heavy force of people who were driving the vans that were taking away the detainees, and law enforcement officers, and really anybody else who was in that convoy. That is deadly force. Throwing rocks through windshields is deadly force, period. Federal law enforcement would be justified in using deadly force against this mob. And they didn't. They used rubber bullets and they used tear gas and smoke grenades. All of this is really incentivizing more of the same. And it is hypothesized at this point that the way these riots and that these mobs are coalescing is that whenever ICE begins to serve these warrants and begins to affect these raids, that the local law enforcement at the city level, for instance, in Los Angeles, or for instance, even at the state and county level, is blasting out on social media and putting this information forward to the public for the purposes of getting people effectively to organize and show up and violently attack law enforcement. This is a serious problem. And so we've spoken about this on the channel for quite some time. The reality of a nation that is increasingly becoming more polarized and increasingly moving more and more towards civil war. And when you consider what civil war looks like, I think the best picture is not even to go back to the war between the states in 1861 to 65, but actually to go back to the lead up to the American Revolution, because you had such division in cities in particular, but even in the countryside. It was one person would be a loyalist, one person would be a Tory, one person would be a patriot, or a freedom-minded person, and then a great many people would be just like, I don't want to get in the middle of it, I'm too busy, I've got my farm, I'm not dealing with it. And we see this even today. We see this mindset today of so much of this just overwhelms people. Do you resonate with that? Have you tried to have conversations about current events and about these greater principles with your coworkers or friends? People are like, blah, 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 I don't want to hear it. Cannot process. It's not possible for this to happen. Have you experienced this? Let me know. Because I see that there is this increasing split, this bifurcation of people who are willing to actually look this squarely in the face and address an issue for what it is and be brave enough to confront the evil that it is, and also to take proactive steps to shield themselves and their families against it, versus everyone else in many cases who are either too busy working 3 side hustles to make ends meet, or, for instance, people who just can't be bothered, can't be bothered with reality, can't be bothered with the implications in their own lives, frankly, because they feel so powerless in and of themselves to affect any meaningful change of their own circumstances. Thank you so much, GP, for the super chats. I appreciate you. Thank you for my channel members as well. If you look in the comments, friends, and you see the little star by people's name, those are members of the channel and channel supporters, and I definitely appreciate you guys so much. Your support and your partnership with the channel is very much valued and appreciated. It allows me to keep bringing these videos and this content to the public for free so that people can benefit from this information and then move forward on it. And thanks so much to my frequent flyers here. Thanks to Goldenrod Moderator, and thanks to Roots, Rocks, and Feathers. Thank you so much for the support, and also just being here regularly and being just a faithful part of the channel. I really appreciate you guys, and I love the community that we're building here, because in times like this, it is so critical that we partner with like-minded people and that we come in one accord, really, so that way we can bounce ideas off of each other and share meaningful information so that we're better prepared. And I appreciate you. Hopkinson says, liked and shared. Thank you so much for liking and sharing. It really does help the algorithm. And the algorithm, of course, artificial intelligence, basically with these podcasts and with these broadcasts, it really limits who can see things. And so when you, as someone who are watching this, like it and share it and comment, it helps people have a greater opportunity to see this who don't necessarily know about what we talk about here on the channel and what we do here. So thank you for that. Let's segue here in this next bit into the tactics that are being utilized not only in California, but also what we are seeing in Alvarado, Texas. And this one may shock you, so grab a beverage here and sit back for a minute. All over the country, ICE raids are happening, but they are happening in many cases in places where sanctuary cities have historically attempted to block federal enforcement. And let's be clear about this. Sanctuary cities are not doing this in a vacuum. Their refusal to enforce lawful and good legislation on the part of Congress, and then ultimately lawful and good governance on the part of the federal government, policing the borders and keeping the rest of the country safe from invasion. Sanctuary cities directly hurt people in other states. Los Angeles directly hurts, for instance, someone in the middle of Kansas, in the middle of Mississippi, in the middle of Nebraska. So even if you don't live in one of these places, even if you're in a red state, this refusal on their part to enforce, and also their active collaboration against federal law enforcement, this is a direct threat to the safety, the welfare, the property rights of every single American citizen, regardless of which state he finds himself. So when we hear about this movement here of pushback against the ICE raids and also the tactics that they're using, we should really pay attention to this. And what I'm going to break down in this next segment, you're going to want to pay attention to, because this could very well be coming to a city near you. And let's also open up a few things here. The Alvarado, Texas raid and what happened in it. This is really an additional layer of what happens when you get cities, and in particular university cities, who are allowed to keep going and going and going with their leftism to the point where effectively they become a breeding ground for communist ideology and for violent Marxist thought. When that thought transitions into action, now we got a problem. This very well could be coming to your closest university city, so you should be paying attention to this. And the thing is, a lot of people, I think because of the nature of how we get information, we have become very passive in our absorption of this information. But really, we should be active in, I would submit, our counter surveillance of these people. And when I say counter surveillance, start making it a habit, and many of you probably already do this, make it a habit to pause at key juncture points and orient yourself before you get out of the car to go into the grocery. When you're at the traffic light, who is next to me? Who's to the right of me? Who's to the left of me? Who are these people at the first in line in the queue in the opposite lane? Being aware of your surroundings and taking steady surveys, if you will, of areas that you frequent to see, is there an increase in certain types of graffiti? Is there an increase in foot traffic? Just being aware and making sense of your surroundings is going to be very helpful for you, I think, and for really all of us. So let's segue here and talk about this Alvarado ICE raid. There was a multi-phase assault on ICE officers during this raid, and this happened on July 4th. What really sets this apart that we should pay attention to is the nature of this assault on ICE agents. In particular, the participants on this assault were armed with rifles. I believe 4 AR-15s were recovered, and 12 sets of plates, like chest plates, body armor, were recovered after the fact. Several individuals have been charged in this, actually. I think there are 12. I don't have the figures right in front of me. Several individuals have been charged in this, but this is really what should pay attention to you. There is still an individual on the loose, and this man's name is Benjamin Hamil Song. He is 32 years old. He's a former Marine Corps reservist, but to uphold the honor of all my brothers and sisters in the Corps here, whom we love as American citizens. I have not served. I want to be very clear about that. I have not served in the United States Marine Corps. I am just a huge fan of the Corps. Let me just say. This man, Benjamin Hamil Song, a former Marine Corps reservist, was given an other than honorable discharge. So OTH discharge, which effectively means that this is the greatest amount of administrative censure that an individual can have without incurring charges that would be brought before courts martial. So this is not a good dude. This was the dirt bag, right? So this was like the unit dirt bag, okay? But what's fascinating to me about him, just from the amount of research that I've done, which is fairly cursory, that Benjamin Song, according to his LinkedIn profile, was active in conservative efforts. He was active in conservative organizations prior to going into the Marine Corps, and then somehow or another, while he was in the Corps, turned into a dirtbag, or maybe he was a dirtbag before then, and ultimately was the recipient of an OTH discharge. So he gets out, right, of the Corps, and dude is like Marxist radicalized. Something happened there, and he becomes active in what is known as the John Brown Gun Club. If you have never heard of this, you need to pay attention right now. The John Brown Gun Club, particularly this chapter, was located in Austin. Okay? So the John Brown Gun Club, this is a leftist organization. This is named after, by the way, John Brown, who was hanged, by the way. He was hanged for the assault on Harper's Ferry, where he attempted to effectively steal all of the guns, ammunition, etc. at Harper's Ferry at the arsenal there. And he was a radical abolitionist, and he effectively was trying to foment a slave uprising during the war between the states to get all of the blacks to rise up and slaughter a bunch of white people. That was John Brown's focus. So this is who their namesake is, by the way. This is who their namesake is, and we should pay attention to this. So Benjamin Song was part of this group. Now, I am going to link on the Patreon page. I'm going to link to you several articles, so that way you can see. There's actually video evidence that has surfaced of him actually taking a role as an instructor, although I will say, as a certified firearms instructor myself, I found his communication of ideas absolutely abysmal. Nonetheless, he was still doing it. And there were people there showing up to take lessons from him who are avowed Marxist. And in doing so, they were training effectively to thwart the governance, the good enforcement of federal government, but effectively to foment a Marxist uprising. This is not a joke, friends, and this is not really a laughing matter. Because when you see the way in which the Alvarado ICE raid was attacked by this group, this was a multi-phase attack. They didn't just like show up and like, okay, we're just gonna like make our stand and come back. No, 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 no. They had a plan to effectively do an Indian fish trap, if you've ever heard of this. So effectively what they did was they had this first phase where people would show up and shoot commercial fireworks at ICE officers, which would cause a concentration of enforcement presence to show up. And then the second wave came in, wherein these members of the John Brown Gun Club, including Benjamin Song, showed up and proceeded to fire upon the officers. And I believe an officer was either severely wounded or killed in this. I'm not sure as to the current status of that officer. What really is troubling to me about this is that this echoes to me, and many of you who were alive during the 60s and 70s perhaps can speak to this in the comments. You remember the Weather Underground? Do you remember the Weather Underground? So this started like on campus, and these ideas of we're going to take down this empire, and we're gonna have the people's revolution. We're gonna make them pay, right? This is an alignment with the victimhood, with the oppressed. This is the narrative of the oppressed, that class warfare, the class struggle. This is the way that we're gonna turn things around, right? Why we really should pay attention to this is because they are willing at this point to put their theology, call it what it is, because they worship Marx, they worship their ideology every bit as much as the most pious of practitioners and parishioners would show up at church. These people worship their God through violence. That is how they do it. And so when we consider the way that this most recent ICE raid in California at these two cannabis farms, which was just on the 10th, Thursday the 10th of July, how this lines up with the Alvarado, Texas incident. What we are seeing here is the rise of sophisticated, multi-phase planned attacks against ICE personnel. And because of this, I think we really should take a step back and evaluate, is this a continuation of the same types of tactics that we have seen previously? Does any of this ring a bell? Does any of this look familiar to you? This looks just like Black Lives Matter riots to me, except now instead of waving Black Lives Matter and like the Black Fist solidarity, now they're waving Mexican flags. It's the same agitators perennially. Many of them are getting paid to do this. But now, by legitimizing violence, there is a groundswell of leftist sentiment that is being effectively outletted with these organizations. And they are recruiting. They absolutely are recruiting. And why is it that they are on the upswing in their recruitment? When it comes right down to it, young people nowadays, for a variety of reasons, are looking forward to, in many cases, neo-feudalism. And rather than answer the nuanced, and in many cases, complicated reasons as to why this is so, foremost of this is currency problems and insolvency and inflation. Rather than look at this from a technical and a nuanced standpoint, there is envy, there is covetousness, there is anger, there is frustration. And instead of putting this to practical usage, people want to vent it. And if they feel like they have the excuse to use violence in order to do so, then they're going to. They're going to. I want to take a moment here, and I want to thank my moderators as well. Thank you for keeping a great community here, guys, and really thank you for having a wonderful, supportive environment in the chat. I want to thank everyone who is part of the chat right now, and showing up and being part of things, because this dynamic that we have here of sharing information and of going back and forth online, it really does help people. It helps the channel, and it helps, I would submit, it helps us feel more connected and more aligned together, and realizing that there are actually a lot of good people out there in this world. It can be very, very depressing when you read the news stories and when you're covering things and wondering to yourself, like, my goodness, am I the only sane person left in this world? No, I assure you, you are not. Look in the chat, and there's a great many people on this channel, on the Patreon page, and the supporters of the channel. There's a great many people who are aware of this and who are just troubled by this as you and I are, and who are also willing to do the hard work to ask the questions and to take steps. And we're going to talk about practical steps and how-tos. But suffice it to say, in this first segment here that we've covered on these ICE raids, the imperative to be aware, alert, oriented, that imperative did not get paused whenever President Trump won the election. If anything, right now, I think we're seeing that imperative is really necessary to double down on for us. Because they're demonic, these people are. And they're going to writhe around and kick and scream and make as much noise as they can, because they're getting their power from the enemy. I would submit to you, when you look at what they're doing and what they're advocating for and who it is that they are really going to bat for, it's very clear to me. It's very clear to me where they're operating from. I saw a comment here just a minute ago, and I wanted to answer that. A college student from OSU saying that it's really, really difficult to find like-minded people. And I get that. Ironically, I think this generation coming up is probably going to end up being one of the more conservative, legit, like constitutional conservative, or on the flip side, like hardcore authoritarian Marxist. It is this great shifting, this great split. And ironically, I was listening to a developmental psychologist, a child developmental psychologist, talk about this phenomenon with the screen generation. And his thesis effectively was that if a child, 15, 20 years ago was given a screen, I know, it doesn't really seem that far ago that we started getting screens en masse. Apparently was the thing. But his point was there was a direct correlation between screen time, impulse control or lack thereof, and suggestibility, meaning that whoever it was that was handed a screen, instead of developing skills to cope with adversity, developing skills to self-soothe, that whoever it was handed the screen, instead of given discipline and reinforcement, that person was going to be a slave. That person was going to be effectively the suggestible. That person was going to be the consumer, and the one who had skills, poise, self-control. The parents who did not shove a screen in front of their kids whenever they were whining, but instead corrected them, admonished them, and redirected that behavior, those people were the ones who became the producers. So the consumers versus the producers, i.e. the controller versus the controlled. So this is what's happening right now. The people who are going to be prosperous in the next generation and who are going to actually be poised and who are going to produce and create something, they're going to be at the top here, and there's going to be a huge gap in between, which sets us up for a huge risk of Marxist revolution and a huge risk of violence, both interpersonal and organized, as what we've seen here with this most recent Alvarado raid and also the California raid. Tony, I see Tony in the chat. He says, where's our stimulus packages? I know, the stimulus packages. Ironically enough, I think I spoke about this in last week's broadcast, but much of the benefit that has been hyped up about these spending bills that have been passed in Congress, any potential benefit that would be realized on paper will soon be nullified with the inflation and the currency problems that people are going to be experiencing. And this gap between people and the complete evaporation of the middle class is really only going to feed into this. So we really should be prepared and be focused on taking care of our security and really focusing on the bullets portion of things. And not to say to stockpile ammo, sit on it, and never do anything with it. I'm going to elaborate on that for just a second. Because some years ago I made a video, which apparently quite a few people didn't actually watch, but reacted to the title, wherein I said, why are they stockpiling ammo? Is stockpiling ammo a fundamentally good thing? It depends. Are you going to actually do something with it? And this is a challenge. I get it, because nobody likes to say, oh, look at my beautiful stockpile. Let me diminish it by X number of percent so I can go and take a class and actually get better. If you don't know what you don't know from a skills standpoint and you haven't pressure tested your skill set, you are not ready. And it does not matter how many lovely numbers and how many piles and piles and cases of ammo that you have. If you have not tested your skill set and if you have not gone under the instruction of a qualified individual to see how it is that you perform by yourself under stress and how it is that you perform in a group under stress. Are your fundamentals on point? You can't start working together with people unless your fundamentals are dialed in. And you don't get dialed in fundamentals sitting there blowing up watermelons on the range. So all that to say, we really should be paying attention to our skill sets and towards cultivating that moving forward, not just in accumulating stockpiles, but utilizing that appropriately, being good stewards of that to utilize it for building our skills. Okay. I want to segue here into the Epstein bit. Oh, friends. Oh, what a week. I hear the collective groan in the audience. Oh, what a week. So speaking of children, and it's for the children, did the entire nation just get gaslighted this weekend and this past week? I'm pretty sure we did. Because we went from release the list to the list is sitting on my desk to I wasn't talking about a list to there is no list. And I have a problem with that. I have a problem with that for many different reasons. First, I find it highly unethical to effectively lie to the totality of your base, regardless of who's doing it. It's not a good look. It's really not a good look. And Pazak says groan. Yes, I'm reading the comments. Yes, Pazak says groan. Yes, yeah. It's sickening. Nobody likes feeling lied to. The base certainly doesn't like feeling lied to. And in particular, this is one thing, I was speaking with a friend today about this. Conservative men, God bless them and prosper them wherever they may be. Conservative men typically don't do too well with having, how shall I say this? Those who hurt children just let off scot-free. It is a fundamental maxim of a conservative and righteous, God-fearing, masculine, like testosterone-producing man to protect the innocent. Testify. Y'all got the little, you got the little handkerchief out? Woo, there it goes, testify, right? Conservative men, righteous men, God-fearing men, masculine men. This is the job that God has called them to for generations, to protect and defend the defenseless, right? Big deal. And so when men in particular are being lied to about this actual niche of dirtbags who are somehow like getting off scot-free, that there is no list now, and who are you to ask about it? We're going to shame you for asking about it. I think that unless this situation gets rectified very quickly, conservative men are going to be potentially sliding all the way over to vote for Elon's third party, the American Party. Because you can't really pee on someone and tell them it's raining. And not only is it raining and you're peeing on them for their own good, but that they deserved it. And oh, by the way, they're not allowed to ask about it. What's happening with this bit about, oh, there is no list, is very dark to me. And I'd like to go over a few things that have happened so that we can unpack them and point by point challenge with reality. So the FBI memo as of July 7th said that there was no client list. No client list found. Why is it that Ghislaine Maxwell is doing 20 right now in a women's prison? Oh, that's right, because she was convicted of effectively trafficking. But if Jeffrey Epstein's partner in crime was convicted for trafficking, to whom did she traffic these children? Was it solely to him? Well, obviously not. Because Pam Bondi just sat there and told you that they had all of these, well, I'm not going to say it here because of YouTube's parameters, but that they had all of this content, effectively, of wickedness being perpetrated against little ones, and that she wasn't going to be showing that. Well, if that's the case, then, are you meaning to tell us that all of this volume that you have found by this wicked criminal is just him and her? Seems problematic to me. Kentucky Tracker says we've been lied to for 30 plus years on this. Yeah. Todd Johnson says JP Morgan paid victims. Interesting. This is what I do know. You don't have a trafficking ring without customers. That is a euphemism. I would like to use other words, but unfortunately YouTube has community guidelines and I would like to stay within them so I could keep talking to you. You don't have someone like Epstein with all of these contacts and all of these people and all of these customers, if you will, for his victims, suddenly disappear. Now, ironically, one of the best testaments that I have seen to point this out is actually his former legal counsel, Alan Dershowitz, who also was former legal counsel for President Trump. Dershowitz straight up said, there is a list. And I actually think I had the quote here. I tried to save this quote, but I don't think I have it in front of me right now. Dershowitz effectively says that not only is there a list, but because of legal cases, Dershowitz is bound to basically silence because of his attorney-client issues. Furthermore, the attorney for representing several of the victims of Epstein straight up said there's a list. Straight up said there's a list, and that it's being suppressed. Dershowitz has also said in his interview in both Newsweek and The Hill, they're citing the same interview with him. Dershowitz has also said that he knows who is on the list, and he knows who is suppressing it, and he knows why they are suppressing it. So suffice it to say that there are powerful people on there, there are high-profile people on there who do not wish their name to be brought forth. Now, the legal counsel, the attorney for representing the several of these victims, I will put links to this on the Patreon page so that y'all can reference this. But she also said that there's this convoluted sort of nexus that's happening right now, wherein people who are actually listed on this list are claiming to be victims, so that way they have protections, anonymity protections. So effectively they're invoking, even though they were, for instance, the consumer, if you will, they're saying that they were the ones who were trafficked. So the whole thing stinks to high heaven. This is so evil and so vile, but the thing that really is an affront to my sensibilities is being lied to. I don't like being lied to, like many of y'all, and I think that it's a bad look. It's a really, really bad look for the administration, and at the bare minimum, it looks like they don't have their act together. It looks like there's a lot of rivalry, and it looks like there is a general ineptitude, if we are to believe that there is no list, which I don't believe for a second. Not a second. There is totally a list. Furthermore, on this memo, July 7th, they reiterated that Epstein's death was ruled a suicide again. No. And let me go over this. I mentioned this very briefly in one of my videos last week. But from an anatomical standpoint, his autopsy, Epstein's autopsy, gave a clue that really anyone who has a background in trauma would see as a red flag. And that is the hyoid bone was broken. So the hyoid bone is this floating bone that sits kind of like right up here. It's responsible for helping you swallow, stabilizing the head a little bit. The hyoid bone, because it's floating, because it doesn't have really any other articulating bones to it, it has kind of a lot of cushion, so to speak. It's sitting on top of some cartilage. It's kind of a cushy area. The fact that someone, I should say, the autopsy attributed to Jeffrey Epstein, the fact that the hyoid bone was found cracked in that autopsy, broken, I believe, tells me that that was not a jail cell suicide attempt via strangulation or, the bed sheets. Is it possible? Like, could potentially it ever be the case? Yeah, but usually only in brittle old people, not Epstein. So when you look at what happens, right, the hyoid bone cracks usually from strangulation, from pressure from front to back, not bottom up. So that right there, from this nurse's perspective, tells me, no, you're lying to me, FBI. You're lying to me, DOJ. I don't believe that he killed himself. I do not. I believe that he was eliminated selectively. For what reason? I don't know if we'll know. I really don't. Furthermore, there is this missing minute of video, which is inherently problematic. And they have all of these acrobatics to explain things, which obviously it was edited in Adobe Premiere. But Bongino apparently admitted that this video that was released was cleaned up. So it's hard to really say that you're being transparent if you're releasing footage that's been redacted in some way. Like, what's the truth? People want to know. And I think that there's a very realistic possibility that we may not know. But I'm very troubled by the fact that there's a couple of things. Caroline Leavitt, if you watched her interview, that's not even the right word, her press room interactions with the news agents. Peter Doocy was on her about this, and he kept asking specifically about Pam Bondi's statements. Now, Caroline Leavitt, there's a lot of thoughts as to, like, that day she didn't wear a cross and what does that mean? And I'm looking at this from a body language standpoint. I am not a body language expert. I just typically know when people are lying to me, having worked in the ER and in psych nursing. So how would you possibly know that, Patriot nurse? I call it a lovely vat of experience with humanity. One of the things that struck me about her posture, her body posture during that interview, was the way in which she was shifting. She seemed to be much more nervous than normal for me, from my eye. What do you think? Did you see the same thing? Have you watched the video? Have you seen this interaction? Let me know what you think. But to me, she seemed deeply uncomfortable. I don't believe, from what I was watching, I don't believe that she was willfully lying. I think that she had her talking points given to her and that she was reporting what she was told, but that, in my opinion, her conscience was getting to her. That's what I thought. From my read of it, that's what I thought. And I typically try and not talk about people per se. I'd rather talk about ideas. But when it comes to what we are speaking about, I think we have a duty to really evaluate whether or not we're being dealt with truthfully. And I'm concerned about that. Oh, this is interesting. I'm an ER nurse for 12 years. We're being fed a bunch of lies. Yeah, and it's true. It's true. Another thing that we're seeing is a lot of inter-office rivalry happening and a lot of drama, which is so fatiguing at this point. Do we really need to see more drama at this point? But in my opinion, this is being suppressed. This is being suppressed for really only one of probably three reasons. So let's work with this. Let's work with this. What do you think? Why would you suppress this? Let's go through this thought experiment. What incentive is there to suppress this list and to try and tell people and gaslight people that this list never existed? Well, if you had it and lost it, and somehow lost all of the information in a ginormous failure of their information grid, which I don't buy, so that's not the real case. Trying to protect someone or a group of someones who, for whatever reason, if this information came out, would be either very damaging to them or vastly world destabilizing. That could be it. Or, for instance, you are protecting people who are part of the internal framework, part of the inside, part of even the movement itself, even the MAGA movement from inside. I don't know. I'm asking the question. What do you think? What do you guys think? Let me know. Leverage. Interesting. Yeah, Captain Epstein. Leverage. Yep. Yep. Yeah, I have seen a lot of people throw out the idea of Mossad, and I want to speak to that actually for a little bit. I have not been able to find anything credible, anything substantive, anything that is definitive proof to support that position. There's been a lot of theories that have been thrown around, I would say quite irresponsibly in some cases by people who have a large following, but I haven't been able to ascertain anything like that. And I think that anyone who is trying to be forthright and also at the same time responsible with what they're saying, I think that if you're going to make that statement, you better have some pretty rock solid evidence to support that. So, and I have not been able to find that. I've not been able to find that. There are, convenient what's the word? It's corollaries. There are corollaries, for instance, like so-and-so knows so-and-so, and this person's father was so-and-so, but I haven't found any definitive evidence to substantiate a Mossad connection, personally, with Jeffrey Epstein. I haven't. I think that probably what is the truth is both profound and simple and disturbing, and that is that very powerful people from both parties are probably involved. And I think that those people who are involved are power brokers. I also find it very interesting, and let me know what y'all think about this. Don't you find it interesting that Diddy also got off, you know, like Diddy, formerly Puff Daddy, former like whatever convoluted name you want to call yourself to try and seem important. He also gets off effectively on all of these charges right about at the same time. And it's James Comey, by the way, it's James Comey's daughter who is lead on that investigation. Don't you find that odd? James Comey, who said that Hillary didn't mean it when she acid washed all those hard drives, the same James Comey who effectively made a threat against the life of President Trump on social media. Don't you find that interesting? So for me, I have a hard time letting go of that. The Comeys and their power brokering family, I think it's time for them to cease being part of the Washington elite and go and find something else better to do. But really, when it comes right down to it, a lot of these people love power. They love power more than they love money. And there's a Hebrew proverb, actually. It's from Pirkei Avos, which is part of the Mishnah. This is first century writings. And it says, Kina taiva kavod. These are the things that take a man out of the world, that cause premature death in the world. Kina is... It comes from the root word, the shorish of kinyan, to acquire, jealousy, the lust of the eyes, to see and to want. And then the taiva is these cardinalities, these physical lust. And then kavod, the lust for glory, for power. So I want you to think back here on what you've seen with this whole Epstein bit. When you think about what has transpired and the evil that has transpired with Epstein, which one of those was it? Kina, taiva, or kavod? Which one was it? Jealousy, carnality, or power? Probably all of them, but definitely the carnality and certainly the power. The power element is very real when you're talking about a victim, right? And a person who is trafficking in victims, someone who they can control, someone who they feed off of, but causing pain and inflicting harm on people. Very evil stuff. When you look at some of these Washington elites and these power brokers, for instance, like Comey and his ilk, what is it that they get? Power. Power big time. When you look at the Clintons and that whole mafia, power, money, everything. Check them all off. And then when you juxtapose that against good and righteous people who are just trying to live their day, day to day, man, pay the bills, give their kids a better chance than they had, give their family something, a legacy. The contrast in this nation is so stark right now. And the sad thing is, right, that the anarchy and the breakdown and rule of law, it starts from the top down. Not usually the bottom up, the top down. People tend to follow the leadership that they've been given and that they voted for in many cases. So the big issue here that we need to be preparing for, I think, is massive instability moving forward. Massive instability. Midterms are going to be a disaster. Unless they can rein this in this coming week, midterms are going to be a big problem. Because here's the thing. I have looked, and y'all have been so good to share this with me. I've looked at the comments. I've heard the messages coming in. I'm hearing the feedback from y'all, and y'all are upset. Like me. I'm not happy about this. If we cannot give, and this is the thing. Oh my goodness. It really made me upset, personally, when President Trump, in fact, it was why are we still talking about this dude? I can tell you why we are still talking about this dude. Because there are hundreds, probably even thousands potentially, of victims of children who have not gotten justice. A society that does not punish people who harm children is a society that is doomed to rot. And that is us. Unless we collectively, as a nation, hold these people's feet to the fire and insist that these children and these victims have justice, no child has a chance in this country moving forward of growing up in safety and security. That is why it matters. That is why we're still talking about it. It is infuriating to me to hear someone dismiss the cries of the victims and of the defenseless. It's enough. And what you're hearing right now, this is righteous indignation. If you can't get a little bit peeved about little children being victimized and having no one to stand up for them and having no one to call their perpetrator guilty and have no one to put punishment upon them commensurate with their crimes, there's something wrong in the internal calculus of morality in the person who cannot become motivated to see justice for those children and for those young girls. Having worked with children who were the victims of this, I can tell you that these children struggle. The Lord can do miracles, but these children struggle the rest of their lives. Because of confidentiality reasons, I can't divulge very much about this, but suffice it to say, I would come home from work some night, friends, I couldn't sleep for hours. If anyone deserves to have this talked about, it's those children. We deserve, as a nation, our children deserve a future where victims have rights and they see their perpetrators punished and brought to justice. That's why we're still talking about it. It matters. It matters. It matters. Yeah, I see a lot of y'all are the exact same way. Yep, a lot of y'all are tracking with me. No, it does matter. It does matter. And so when we talk about, why people won't go away, like why are we still talking about him? Because it is the fundamental duty of a government to protect the life, liberty, and property of the citizens. If the citizenry, by consent of the governed, elects the government to do that and the government fails, that government is illegitimate. So yes, if you up there in DOJ and FBI land and in Washington swampland decide that it is in the best interest of national security or whatever convoluted reason it is to not provide justice, one of the few charges of the federal government, supposedly, if you can't provide justice at a federal level for this trafficking, because you do technically have here jurisdiction with interstate issues, if you can't do that, you don't have a cause for any faith whatsoever that your constituents would have. So I think this is really going to bite them in the butt. And unless they can really fix this within a week, they're going to lose the midterms. That's what I think. People have notoriously short-sightedness, but you don't get to pee in somebody's Cheerios and call it milk. Sorry. I want to take a moment here before we conclude, and I would like to open the floor up for some Q&A. If you would please, in the chat section with your questions, please make them one sentence and in all caps. And I want to take some questions here from you guys. Iceman, yeah, he said it's about integrity. You are darn right, sir. Yeah, if we don't have integrity to defend the little children in our nation from this, there's like, why in the world would someone have children? Really? If you can't guarantee them to be saved from it, my goodness. Yeah, Iceman says if it doesn't happen, millions aren't voting. I agree with you, sir. 100%. 100%. Oh, Brenda Hall McDonald. It's good to see you, ma'am. All right, let's see here. Answer this question here. Why are we paying taxes? James Foster asked. James, that's a really good question. Income tax is unconstitutional. It is. Why do we keep paying it? Because effectively we're being coerced by the federal government with threat of incarceration or violence. That's why. And a lot of people say, you know what? I know that I'm being extorted and I would rather try and live peaceably without, having the feds show up in my life, and I don't want them in my life. That's why. Is MAGA over? Good question, Lucky C. If they don't fix it this week, I believe they are. If they do not fix it this week and do an about face, I think they're done. I really do. You don't get to the big beautiful bill. That's one. This Epstein bit and this potential for amnesty and floating this idea of amnesty, for farm workers and for hospitality. No. If they can't fix it, it's done. Do I think? Oh, good question. Voices for Veterans. Do I think Trump is being blackmailed? Oh, Gabrielle wants to know too. Guys, I don't know. I don't know. To me, when I looked at his body language in that interview where he said, like, why are we still talking about this guy? That body language to me doesn't look like someone who is feeling threatened. That body language to me looked like someone who was trying to control. And I've seen some breakdowns of body language experts analyzing that meeting, and I actually had to take disagreement with them because oftentimes they're saying, like, this is a stop message. No, when President Trump is doing this you'll see the hand movement thing that he does, that is a very practiced and rehearsed attempt at controlling. All right, part of this is from effectively executive human resources type of stuff. People will do this in order to control. It's like grabbing the worlds, effectively, like controlling the orbs and centering. But no, I don't think that he is. His body language to me does not seem to betray someone who is under duress. Patty Brown, what can we do to help children being trafficked? Oh, friend, there is, let me get back to you on that, because there are several organizations that are faith-based that particularly, there's actually one, there was an organization, I think they've since changed their name, but it was called Hookers for Jesus. And that there was an interview by Peter Santarello, I think, with the director. I think they've since changed their name to some way, but basically they work to get women who are trafficked, and young women too, who are underage, by the way, particularly in Las Vegas, which is Grand Central Station for it. They work to get them off the street. It is very, very difficult. There's a lot of violence. There's a lot of control. There's a lot of drugs in that scene, and it's very, very dangerous. But I was very inspired by their work, so that would be a good place to go to. As far as work with children, let's see. She says Caleb House. Okay, Caleb's House. Okay, I see several people talking about that. Okay, great. I can't personally vouch for that. I'm just seeing this now. But yeah, oh, good. Thanks, Dustin. Dustin's dropping a link there for Hookers for Jesus. They do some really, really good work with women and young girls, getting them off the streets. Okay. Let me have one more question here, friends. And let's see here. I'm going to move forward from there. Let's see here. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Psalm 91. He seems to have forgotten that his life was spared. You know, I heard a story once, and this was... I'm trying to remember where I heard this story from, but effectively it was a story about a rabbi whose life was spared during the Holocaust through effectively a miracle. A circumstance is a miracle where effectively he and his son, where if I remember the story correctly, they were being passed by this group of SS, effectively. And for whatever reason, the SS guys did not see them. And these were not like blend in type of Jews. These were, had peyot and, the beard and the hat and everything. They were definitely your standout, stereotypical, everything that the Waffen SS was like, oh yeah, let's go after them. And so the story was that after the first time he was saved, yes, my life was saved. And he said his life was changed for about 2 weeks. But the second time it happened, it was changed forever. So all of that to say, mankind has an incredible capability to adapt. And it's easy for people to forget things, even significant things. So, friends, what I'm going to do here, actually, let's talk about what to do moving forward here. Let's talk about what to do. With what we've spoken about tonight, the left is figuring out that this is a pressure point. They know full well that MAGA is not happy about this. They know full well that the base is very upset about this, and for good reason. They know how to read a room to a great degree, and they're quite adept at exploiting weakness, particularly through violence, historically. I would really recommend that you familiarize yourself with self-defense, and obviously that you focus on that as well. But I think something that we're going to have to pay attention to, friends, we are weak right now. I'm going to call it like it is. We are weak right now internally. Being prepared with beans, bolts, and band-aids is a multi-phase, multi-layered approach. Start with what you can and move outward, because the more prepared you are for local things, the better you are going to be to ride out larger scale things. Our adversaries internationally, and there are many, because we are not popular in a lot of the world for various reasons, our adversaries are watching all of this. And in particular, China has been making some leaps and bounds recently that are very troubling. They have now created cyborg bees. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but it's evil, wicked stuff. They're torturing these creatures. They stick 3 needles in these little bees' brains, and they send electrical impulses to shock them to make them fly certain ways. And they're all celebrating this. By the way, I would like to say that the Chinese government has routinely been involved in making chimeras out of human embryos, human fetuses, and pigs, animals, creatures, for their twisted experimentation. Their government is truly treacherous and evil and vile. And what they do to underground believers, like in the Chinese believers underground church in China, and also what they do with organ harvesting from political prisoners, it's evil. They are watching this right now, and they are very much looking to position themselves so that way they have an angle to exploit. And they will exploit every weakness that they can, because part of their governing doctrine effectively when Sun Tzu is to avoid a fight. They're going to exploit a weakness and go in at an angle. And that angle, whatever it would be, to kick off potentially a kinesthetic World War III, whether it's taking Taiwan or whatever, they're going to wait for when we are most vulnerable. And here's the thing, the destabilizing effects from a currency standpoint that could come once we're weak here and once our enemies exploit that, it could be, for instance, that you're dealing with outbreaks of local violence against ICE that accelerates, and then the Feds send in more troops, and that just kind of, it's like one-upmanship, and then we end up with the summer of love all over again, and then our enemies use that to effectively move against us from a currency standpoint, call in debt, whatever it is. This house of cards could come down very quickly. I hope it doesn't. I really hope it doesn't. I hope that we have a slow and cushioned descent, as many empires have throughout history. But I find it interesting that the tactics right now seem to be of the left, that the oppressed should unite against the empire. And I see tactics being utilized by these assaults on ICE that are similar, very similar, to other Marxist uprisings and insurgencies, and in particular that are similar to Islamofascist insurgencies. It is interesting to me that these same people who are waving all these like Gaza Free Palestine, pro-Hamas stuff, they're also the ones who are utilizing these multi-phased attacks against ICE. I believe that there are most likely sleeper cells in the United States that will be activated at a particular time, and I believe that we have local collaborators with them. I really do. And I think like this whole bit about the mayor, Zohran Mamdani in New York, this is not going away anytime soon. We are potentially on the precipice of some major things happening, and we have, thank God, we have some time to prepare for this, but I think we should be very aware and really be taking steps in this. We need to be able to feed ourselves. And it's hard too, because I get it, guys. Like, I've gone to the grocery store and I've looked at how much food costs. Chickpeas right now are $1.48 a pound. Do you remember when they were 78 cents a pound? Because I sure do. I remember when they were 86 cents a pound, not so very long ago. Prepping staples and food prices have gone up astronomically. So it's really hard to continue to be disciplined in your stores and in purchasing. But I would submit to you guys, like this imperative has not gone away. So we need to be able to feed ourselves. We need to be able to stock our food. We need to be able to cook with the food that we have. We need to be able also to take care of our family's medical needs. The last thing that you want to do, guys, in the midst of crazy stuff happening, is to have to go downtown to where the hospital is. Most trauma hospitals are near the universities. Most trauma hospitals are downtown. And what we've seen with these recent actions is that this is where the left is starting their riots, and this is where they're causing problems. And here's the thing, guys. Ambulances will not go through riots and scenes of violence to get to your house should you need them. Like, they are not going to jeopardize their safety. And particularly in the times of chaos, like, they're not, if the scene is not safe, they're not going to roll up there, friends. They're not going to roll up. So you got to be able to take care of your family. And also, from a financial standpoint, our dollar is being inflated into nothing. So you need to be able to stockpile, to use the medicines and also the supplies that you have stored up. You need to have knowledge and skill sets to do that. But also it would behoove you to learn complementary ways of doing things with the herbs. That's one of the reasons why I teach the courses, guys, online. Because YouTube is nice for little snippets, right? TikTok is nice for like 5-second snippets that make you feel like you've really learned something, but you truly haven't. The benefit of an online course is that I have time to actually sit with you, to work with you. You have the downloadable workbook, and you can print this off and keep it with you offline. That's the thing, because if the grid goes down and you don't have access to, for instance, the course online, you've got your workbook, and I designed it that way. So I want you to be able to be prepared. Because the way that things are going, friends, I don't think midterms are going to be pretty. I think it's going to be awful. And I don't think that to me, it looks like they're a bag of water with a hole in it that just keeps getting like more and more holes punched in that bag. I think that they've really got to try and manufacture and architect a better PR game this week, or they're going to lose the midterms bad. And I'm probably going to talk more later this week, or perhaps even next week, on our live stream about the emerging Chinese threats that we're seeing, and really like the multinational threats. We are on the tail phase of our empire, friends. This next midterm is the 250th anniversary of the United States. Historically, republics have a shelf life of approximately that time. And so for that reason, friends, I think we really need to have our head on a swivel. It's not because I wish it to be, it's because things are. Facts don't care about our feelings. Neither does history, by the way. So friends, what I want to do now is I want to actually move forward into prayer. And I want to also thank you, friends. This last week, I had sent out a request for people to join me in prayer and in fasting. And the awful flooding in Texas, I mean, it was so awful. It was so bad. And I want to thank you for those of you who prayed and fasted with me, because there were miracles. I had reports of miracles of various different types during those days that they were doing search and recovery, etc., for the victims of the Texas floods. People still need our prayers, friends. I mean, it's just awful. But I want to thank folks who joined with me for that, because fasting and prayer in general is a powerful thing, and it shouldn't be dismissed. But certainly the fasting standpoint is very important too, because when you fast, you're effectively nullifying the flesh and becoming more aware of your soul and your spirit and your place with God. And so when it comes to that, friends, I think that's very powerful. And we know that fasted prayer is powerful. Fasted prayer changes things. So thanks for joining me with that. And I want to pray for us going forward for the week, guys, because I know we've really got, our country needs prayer. Our people need prayer. And I'm just praying for wisdom. I've prayed this so many times this week, wisdom for President Trump, that the Lord would put people in his path to give him the right counsel and to give courage for people to listen and walk with it. Ryan Jensen, thank you so much, Ryan. I appreciate you. Great supporter there. Thank you so much, Ryan. I'm so glad that you're here, man. So as we conclude our broadcast tonight, I just want to grab our Psalms here. This is my Psalm book here. And I read out of the Koren Tehillim. So this is Hebrew and English, if you're interested. And you can see it here. It says Hebrew on one side and English on another. Koren, Koren Tehillim. Tehillim just means Psalms in Hebrew. So if you'll join with me, and whatever translation you have is fine. We're going to read a few Psalms, and we're going to pray, and we're going to close out the week. I'm grateful for y'all. Thank you for being here. Thanks for being part of the channel. By the way, if you did get value out of this, please make sure and share it with one person who's like-minded, who would be benefited from it. Let's grow the channel and get more good information out to people who matter. That's the thing. It can be deceptive in a way, if you're a content creator. It can be a deceptive thing, for instance, when the algorithm is in your favor. May the odds be ever in your favor, or when it's not, and when you have people who show up, or lots of people like a video or not. Here's the thing I maintain. Right, the type of people who the Lord puts in my path, God gave me this channel. I believe it. I believe the Lord gave me this channel. I don't have any explanation whatsoever why this channel would exist beside him. But also, says in the scriptures, one of you will chase 10,000. Or so one of you will chase 1,000 to 10,000. So what does that mean? In God's math, things do not directly scale. One of you will chase 1,000 and two of you 10,000. When the Lord puts people in my path, would it be nice if like millions and millions and millions of people watch my channel? Sure, like for the ego, everybody would love an ego boost. But here's the thing. I'm interested in the Lord's anointed. One of you will chase 1,000 and two 10,000. I want that one. I want those two. That's who I'm going after. Those are the people I want on my channel. As much as I want information to get out to the masses, if the Lord has you here, if you're here right now listening to this, it's my opinion that you're that one chasing 1,000 and that the two of you are the ones chasing 10,000. I'm a believer. I believe that the Lord puts people on this channel specifically who he has a destiny and a plan for and who are movers and shakers in his kingdom. And those are the people that I want to be around. I don't know about you, but that's the cohort I want to surround myself with. Psalm 46, please, my friends. Psalm 46. For the chief musician, a song of the sons of Korah on Alamot. God is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in time of trouble. Therefore, we are not afraid when the earth is shaken, when mountains tumble into the heart of the sea, when its waters roar and foam, and the mountains quake at its surging. There is a river whose streams bring joy to the city of God, the holy dwelling place of the Most High. God is within her, she will never fail. God will help her at the break of day. Nations rage, kingdoms topple. The earth melts when he lifts his voice. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see the works of the Lord, and astounding things he has wrought on earth. He puts an end to wars throughout the earth. He breaks the bow and shatters the spear. The shield he burns with fire. Be still and know that I am God. Exalted among the nations, exalted over the earth. The Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Psalm 31. For the chief musician, a psalm of David. In you, Lord, I take refuge. May I never be put to shame. In your righteousness, rescue me. Incline your ear to me. Speedily deliver me. Be a rock of refuge for me, a stronghold to save me. For you are my rock and my fortress. For the honor of your name, lead me and guide me. Free me from the net they have hidden for me. For you are my refuge. Into your hand I commit my spirit. Redeem me, Lord, God of truth. I detest those who look to worthless vanities. For my part, I put my trust in the Lord. I will exalt and rejoice in your constant loving kindness. For you have seen my affliction. You know the distress of my soul. And you have not handed me over to the enemy, but have set my feet at large. Have mercy on me, Lord, for I am in distress. My eye wastes away with sorrow, my body and soul too. My life is spent with grief, and my years with groaning. My strength fails because of my iniquity, and my bones waste away. Because of all my foes, I have become an object of scorn, especially so to my neighbors. I am a horror to my friends. Those who see me in the street flee from me. I have passed out of mind like the dead. I have become like a discarded vessel. For I hear the whispering of many. There is terror on every side, as they conspire against me and plot to take my life. But I trust in you, Lord. I say you are my God. My fate lies in your hands. Rescue me from my enemies and my pursuers. Let your face shine upon your servant. Save me in your constant loving kindness. Lord, let me not be put to shame when I call you. Let the wicked be ashamed and reduced to silence in Sheol. Let lying lips be struck dumb that speak haughtily against the righteous with arrogance and contempt. How great is the goodness that you have stored up for those who fear you, that you have bestowed on those who take refuge in you in the sight of men. You hide them in the shelter of your presence from the intrigues of men. You shield them in your tent from quarrelsome tongues. Blessed be the Lord, for he has shown to me his wonderful kindness in a besieged city. In my alarm, I said, I am thrust out from your sight. Yet you heard my cry for mercy when I called to you for help. Love the Lord, all you loyal to him. The Lord protects the faithful, but repays in full him who acts with pride. Be strong and let your heart take courage, all you who wait for the Lord. Psalm 20. For the chief musician, a psalm of David. May the Lord answer you in a time of distress. May the name of Jacob's God be a tower of strength to you. May he send you help from the sanctuary and give you support from Zion. May he remember all of your offerings and graciously accept your burnt offerings. May he grant you your heart's desire and fulfill your every plan. May we shout for joy over your victory, and in the name of our God unfurl our banners. May the Lord grant your every request. Now I know that the Lord will give victory to his anointed. He will answer him from his holy heaven with the saving strength of his right hand. Some boast of chariots, some of horses, but we boast in the name of the Lord our God. They collapse and fall, but we rise up and stand firm. Lord, grant victory. May the King answer us on the day that we call. And we will conclude with Psalm 94. Psalm 94. God of vengeance, Lord, God of vengeance, appear. Arise, O judge of the earth. Give the proud their deserts. How long shall the wicked, O Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph? They pour out a stream of arrogant words. All the evildoers brag about themselves. They crush your people, Lord, and afflict your own heritage. They kill the widow and the stranger. They murder the fatherless. And they say, the Lord does not see. The God of Jacob pays no heed. Take heed, you most stupid people. You fools, when will you be wise? Can he who implanted the ear not hear? He who formed the eye not see? Shall he who disciplines nations and teaches mankind knowledge not punish? The Lord knows the thoughts of man, that they are but an empty breath. Happy is the man whom you discipline, Lord, and teach him out of your law. Give him peace in days of trouble, until a pit is dug for the wicked. For the Lord will not abandon his people, nor forsake his own heritage. For justice shall again accord with the righteous, and all the upright in heart will follow it. Who will rise up for me against evil men? Who will stand up for me against wrongdoers? Had not the Lord been my help, I should soon have dwelt in the silent grave. When I thought my foot was slipping, your loving kindness, Lord, supported me. When anxieties increased within me, your consolations cheered my soul. Can a corrupt throne be your associate, one that brings on misery by its decrees? They band together against the life of the righteous and condemn the innocent to death. But the Lord is my strong tower. My God is the rock where I take refuge. He will repay them for their wickedness and destroy them for their evil deeds. The Lord our God will destroy them. Let's pray. Oh, Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, our Father, our King, whom have I in heaven but you, and on earth there is none but you. Father, every person within the sound of my voice right now, whether live or on rebroadcast, I pray that you would bless them right now, Father, and give them an outpouring of your Spirit as you prophesied through Yoel in the book of Joel. I pray, Father, that you would give us strength for these days, for this week. Give us discernment, Father. I pray that of those who are listening to me, Lord, that you would give them the mantle of the one that chases 1,000 and the two that chase 10,000. Make us fit for these days, Lord. Give us courage, Father, to speak boldly truth in accordance with your word. Father, you told us that you require of us to do justice, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with you. Lord, teach us. Teach us how to serve you. Teach us how to keep your commandments, Father. Teach us how to walk with you in such times. I have a picture right now. There's someone who is looking through a big black garbage bag. There's someone who's looking for something that's lost or that's misplaced. And Father, I pray that you sovereignly would allow them to find what's precious that's been lost. I pray for strength, Father, for those who are healing from surgeries. Father, for those who are in need of physical healing, Lord, would you reach down and touch them? For those who are, I see a man and a woman arguing. There's a tension, like in a marriage, just a lot of tension and a lot of frustration and anger. Father, I pray that you would bring calm to that situation, Lord. And where there is hatred and anger, that you would pour love into that heart, Lord. I ask you, Lord, show us how we can help. Show us how we can help with the situation for people who are trapped in trafficking. Father, when you called your people out from slavery. And you told Moses and Aaron to say to Pharaoh, let my people go, that they may serve me. And then I ask you, Lord, in accordance with your word, according to the prophet Isaiah, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he hath anointed me to preach good tidings to the poor. He has sent me to heal the brokenhearted, to preach deliverance to the captives, to give sight to the blind, to set at liberty them that are bruised, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Lord. I pray for deliverance and for liberty of the captives, Lord. I pray for those hostages still being held by Hamas, including Americans who are still being held, Father. Protect them and deliver them, oh God. Father, give us eyes to see. Give us ears to hear and discernment. You tell us the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom and knowledge. Father, give us that wisdom and knowledge. Incline our hearts to you and not to selfish gain. Open our heart to your word. We will long after your precepts. Let us dwell in your word day and night, Lord. For it is truly sweeter than honey. We love you, Lord. Go with us, Father. Be with our nation. Give our leaders wisdom, God. And deliver us, Lord. Let us turn back to you. Give us a heart of repentance. Give us a heart of piety to serve you, Lord. We bless you, Father, and we thank you. You have made us fearfully and wonderfully. Our ancestors, Lord, when they founded this nation, they did it in a covenantal way with you at Plymouth and at Jamestown. For the sake of the righteous who have gone before us, Lord, please don't hold our current sins to account and be merciful to us, Lord. Go with us, Lord, this week. Let us flow in your power and in your spirit. Let us minister to those in need and have a good word and a kind word for those around us. We love you, Lord. We bless you. We thank you. Amen. Thanks, friends. Thanks for being here. God bless you. I appreciate you all very, very much. Thank you for joining me on this broadcast. May the Lord bless and keep you all. Thank you for being part of this channel. Thank you to the Patreon supporters who are partners with us here. And thank you to the channel supporters. If you, by the way, have not subscribed, please make sure that you are subscribed. Please smash that like button and also share this. And if you would like to get more content, you can head on over to the Patreon page. I also do a monthly chat with my Patreon for just Patreon only. So it's a much more smaller, intimate group, and we do Q&A. It's really amazing. It's a wonderful group over there. We also have threads and information back and forth. So if you are considered going to the Patreon page and haven't done so, definitely make your way on over there. Appreciate you guys. So much gratitude. May the Lord bless and keep you, and may you prosper in all your ways. For now, it's Patriot Nurse signing off. I'll see you guys later. Bye.